We live in a world of artificial intelligence, but it's very, very, very important to understand the value and the power of human intelligence. So, my message is make sure you appreciate your power and your human intelligence. And if you keep focused on that, you'll always win the war, win the battle against artificial intelligence.
Welcome back to Only the Savvy, where innovation meets the future of finance, blockchain, and technology. Today, we're exploring the fascinating intersection of life science, AI, and blockchain with Dr. Nishit Trivedi, a portfolio manager and director of life science research. With a background that connects medicine, business, and investing, Dr. Trivedi is here to share how these worlds collide to shape the future of healthcare and finance. Dr. Trivedi, welcome to the show. Of
Welcome, Nicole. Thanks for having me.
course. Let's start with your story. Can you tell us about yourself and how your journey brought you into life sciences and the investment world?
Sure, happy to. So, my background is as a physician scientist. Did my medical degree MBBS from Bombay, India. Came to US in 2000. Wanted to be involved with research, especially areas of oncology, neuroscience, which I was passionate about. So, I did my PhD at Penn State Hershey Medical Center in 2000. Uh, Day one, when I started my PhD program, the department chair was very kind, and he said that particular year they were offering a free MBA to students, and it became a PhD MBA combo. That's how uh, the business side came in. So it wasn't something that was a planned journey. It was something where I felt this would kind of be a great value add. So was a scientist from 8 to 5, and then went to the business school in the evening. With that, did my PhD in 2004, was involved with oncology research, working uh, on a mutation that was discovered in melanoma. Uh, the research panned out well, got an award from the American Association of Cancer Research at their annual meeting in 2004. Uh, Following my PhD, pursued postdoctoral studies with a dermatologist at Gitlin Cancer Foundation. Uh, She was an excellent mentor, got 2 publications out of it, and was even invited to the Society of Investigative Dermatology to present some of my research up there. While I was in the midst of finishing my educational studies, happened to meet with Emerald Asset Management in 2006, and it's been an 18 years of fun journey at Emerald. Emerald has been a great firm, and happy and proud to have been part of it.
Wow, it sounds like your background really set the stage for the work you're doing now. You've managed to bring together medicine, business, and finance in your career. What inspired you to bridge these fields?
In in terms of inspiration, what I really enjoyed was this field allowed me to be at that cutting edge of science. I was always driven by innovation, science, and with Emerald Asset Management, specializing in small cap research, and me having joined the life sciences team, we were always looking for new technologies, new innovations on therapeutics. So, biotech companies, medical device companies, diagnostic companies. And every company, as it kind of goes through its development phase, has to raise capital. So, this role, when I joined, I realized it really kept me at that cutting edge of science, allowed me to meet some of the most sophisticated intellectual minds in in the medical field, and that what really kept me on. And it's been 18 years of being able to do that and continuing that journey.
Wow, it's clear you found a way to connect the dots. Let's talk more about what's happening in life sciences right now. The life science space has seen an incredible growth over years. What are some of the key innovations driving some of these transformations right now?
Sure. So as you highlighted, you know, life science has kind of gone through some great phases and great innovations, and innovation has been happening in various different verticals. And we have seen it all, whether it is innovations that were kind of happening on the therapeutic side, diagnostic side. And in some ways, a lot of these verticals in life science are also linked together. So as I think back, one of the key innovations that really propelled the sphere was the Human Genome Project. And with that, we were able to understand the biology more clearly for 8,000 new diseases. We then kind of started understanding the mutations and the different factors in the signaling cascade from at a molecular level. Um, so that kind of has had a significant impact when it comes to innovation. There were some great advances made on sequencing technologies as sequencing became faster, cheaper, and we are able to now kind of do a whole genome sequencing very easily and rapidly and very cost efficiently. There has been significant innovations on the medical devices front, where procedures that were more invasive are now being taken into more minimally invasive technologies. Uh, for example, the TAVR procedure. So if you're trying to uh, valvular surgery, which initially used to be a more complex surgical procedure, is now can be done through a catheter-based technology. So there's been innovation in many different areas, and it's a continuum ecosystem that kind of keeps moving forward.
It's excited to hear some of this progress that is going on. Let's dig into how technology is pushing these things further now. AI is being applied in so many industries. How is it transforming life science, especially in areas like drug discovery and diagnostics?
So artificial intelligence, as you highlighted, is really kind of playing a very significant role in many different aspects of our lives. In the same way, in life sciences, and again, AI has had an impact on almost in many different verticals, starting, say, if we look at drug discovery is a long, cumbersome process. It can take more than 10 years to develop a drug from the time you identify a target till you kind of have something uh, through the clinic. Where we see that AI can provide value is in potentially speeding up that process, and also, along with speeding it up, in helping to identify the more appropriate target and making sure that we can get the outcomes more efficiently. So, just in terms of our hit rate, our success rate of number of candidates entering the funnel versus number of candidates that can kind of go into the clinic can be better than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. And there are some interesting technologies like biosimulation that kind of play a role. There are interesting technologies in terms of virtual screening that can aid in that process. And it's also important to make sure you're taking the right candidate forward. So to being able to make sure you're testing in terms of side effects, etc., and potential side effects that you would have perhaps potentially identified later on in the drug discovery process. All of these are important things, and artificial intelligence can play a role. But I also kind of want to highlight that this is a continuous process that's kind of been happening for many years. Pharmaceutical companies have been using more and more technology over the years. The last 3 years, there's been a little bit more hype and buzz when it comes to AI, but I look at it as more, it's kind of been a continuous evolution. And the rate of adoption clearly has increased. And now we can kind of see a lot more applications of those technologies. You touched base, example, on diagnostics. And again, I kind of think diagnostics is, again, a very important area. And to take a snapshot from diagnostics, we feel one of the first areas that AI can help is in imaging. And at Emerald, one of the things that we do when we evaluate a technology, evaluate a company, we try and understand the overall science But then we also try and make sure we're understanding what are the tangential benefits coming out from the adoption of this AI technology? Meaning, uh, with adopting a particular AI technology, are you really able to increase productivity with with the particular adoption of an AI technology? Are you really seeing measurable benefits to the patient, to the provider, etc.? So when it comes to investment decisions, it's a very thorough, thought out process, and it's making sure that we are investing in AI where we really kind of see value being created now versus in the future, because there have been a lot of AI companies that have kind of come up, but we are making sure we're being selective and thoughtful and methodical in our approach when we think about AI.
It's amazing how AI is currently being involved, especially in the healthcare field. AI is transforming healthcare in so many ways. How is it helping doctors and specialists work more effectively and efficiently as well?
Again, great question. And I kind of think this is here I really get excited about AI because here I really feel I can see some great value. And if you kind of say, let's look at it from the physician's perspective, radiologists see thousands of mammograms. They're kind of looking at scans, they're looking at CTs, MRIs, etc. And in imaging, AI can really add value to enhancing the productivity of the radiologist. And the, the benefit more so not just to kind of enhance the productivity of the radiologist, you can also then kind of tie that benefit to the patient. Because now with modern technology, you can identify, say, as an example, cancer at an earlier stage. Uh, to take an example, let's think about mammograms. In the US, more than 40 million mammograms are done annually. So there's a big burden, and we need a lot of radiologists to kind of read these mammograms. Um, Early detection really translates to better outcomes for women. The earlier you find the cancer and you treat it, you have much better outcomes. So by using AI technology, what it can do is it can help identify some cancers that would have potentially been missed. Or it can also kind of help from a perspective in terms of reducing the recall rate. Say, for example, a radiologist reads a bunch of scans, and there is some that that the radiologist feels I need to call this patient back for a follow up and further diagnosis. There's a lot of anxiety that goes on in that woman's mind when she's kind of coming back for the follow up. So, if one can really reduce that follow up visits at the same time, detect more cancers earlier, while at the same time enhancing the productivity of the radiologist, here now there's a real case why how a technology is providing value at multiple chains of the ecosystem. Uh, and and at Emerald, that's the part of the piece that we do. We just so we look at the scientific evidence and see how that is building. We also kind of talk to the doctors. So, for example, I've visited uh, a high volume radiology practice and kind of spoken with radiologists to understand what the workflow is like. And it was eye opening to kind of also see that radiologists are also adopting this technology happily. So, you know, there's been a little bit of a fear in terms of some people thinking, you know, will radiologists replace humans, etc. And, where in the ecosystem does it fit? But today's clinicians, today's radiologist kind of feels, no, this is really adding value to my work. And there is a very nice symbiotic relationship. And so, say, as an example, when visiting this high volume radiology center, the radiologist kind of highlighted how, on one side, he's looking at a bunch of scans, those same mammograms have first been evaluated by AI. After he reviews the scans, he kind of turns on and looks at what the AI marked them as. And the AI would mark them as green, yellow, red. So majority of the times there's a lot of concordance. But there's going to be some times where the radiologist is looking at a scan and kind of thinking, is this something concerning? At that point of time, when he looks at the AI, which has been trained on millions of mammograms, and it all and the AI also kind of says, yes, this is concerning. The radiologist is immediately going to kind of say, okay, let's flag this and let's do more follow up testing and evaluation for this patient. There are, it's rare, but there are times when the radiologist may have missed something, but the AI highlights, say, a yellow or a red signal in terms of saying, check this particular area in the scan. Based on the AI's training, there may be an area of concern that the radiologist may have missed. And so that allows the radiologist to take another look at that mammogram and say, yes, let me take a deeper look exactly in this location. And then that may change his or her view. So there are tangential benefits. It makes the radiologist's work a little bit more easier. He can go through more scans. He also knows that there's a well-trained AI that's also looking at it simultaneously, and it's a very collaborative. It's a beneficial effect. It's the way I look at it.
Wow. It's interesting to hear the impact that it's taking on individuals like radiologists and how it's helping their lives. Let's talk more about the patients now. How is AI improving outcomes like early disease detections, like you mentioned before with mammograms? Is there any personalized treatments that we're seeing yet with AI?
So when it comes to personalized treatment, so at this point of time, the areas of AI where we're focused on is where AI is enhancing the value, say, in pathology, as it kind of goes through a lot of different slides, where AI is kind of enhancing the value in a diagnostic test. AI definitely plays a role in early stage of selecting a candidate, etc., or biosimulation, as well as a way to screen a whole library virtually, and some of those applications. Um, but at where we are really focusing, as we kind of see tangential benefits both for the patients as well as the clinician, we're kind of looking at imaging as one of the first areas, and then following the applications of AI in other areas. And essentially, it's we all use the word AI a lot these days, but it is kind of being it has been used in the past, and is kind of being used today, and will always kind of be used in the future. It's just the pace of adoption and the complexity of what it can do is increasing.
Absolutely. And that's great that you bring that up. It's going to bring me to my next question, shifting to a different type of technology blockchain. Blockchain has changed finance, but what role do you see it playing in healthcare, especially with security and transparency?
So when it comes to blockchain, I'll be very honest. In terms of my expertise, I am not the blockchain expert, so I can kind of say anecdotal what I've seen. I definitely find blockchain has kind of been a very interesting technology, and it could have some applications in healthcare. I've seen some when the whole concept of blockchain was more, kind of came more into popularity about 3 to 5 years ago. And then I was at the HIMSS conference and some of those health tech conferences. There've been some interesting opportunities that I've kind of seen where people are trying to use blockchain to make sure that an individual's medical data, history, everything is kind of being more portable and can kind of be taken from A to B to C seamlessly. So there are several applications of blockchain that are kind of developing in healthcare. But I think when it comes to healthcare and blockchain, we are still at in several cases at a stage where the pilots are being done, and at the early nascent stage. And I think 2 or 3 years down the road, we may be at a stage where more and more applications kind of come up.
It's cool to hear how blockchain could change healthcare. It's really neat. Let's talk about investments in this space. From an investment perspective, why is now such a great time to look at opportunities in life science?
When it comes to life sciences, we are at present seeing a lot of opportunities, whether it's, say, in biotech, whether it's, say, in medical devices, diagnostics, uh, value-based care models, the whole ecosystem. The US spends about 17% of the US GDP is spent on healthcare. So it's a large part of spending in US and globally. We also kind of think life sciences is an area, and healthcare within life sciences ecosystem is an area that's less cyclical than some of the other sectors. So we look at life sciences as a segment in terms of saying there's a lot of visibility. As the population ages, we're going to need these technologies to take care of the patients, to kind of take care of the seniors. So there's a high degree of visibility. There's some secular tailwinds to the sector. And with the collective expertise in Emerald's life sciences team, we feel very confident of being able to continuously go out there, look for new technologies, uh, whether it's gene gene therapy, whether it is RNAi technologies, whether it is new medical device companies that are kind of disrupting, say, the transplant industry. So I think we are at this point of time seeing a lot of innovation out there, and that's what gets us excited. And we think that the demand for healthcare and life sciences is going to kind of be consistent and getting stronger.
That sounds exciting. Let's talk about what makes investing in this space a bit challenging. What are some of the biggest challenges investors face when evaluating companies in this space, especially smaller or early staged ones?
Sure. Um, when it comes to smaller companies, one of the things that's very important is a being able to analyze and understand the technology at a very detailed scientific level, because it's important to kind of understand how a particular technology is different from the other. So I kind of think having the scientific expertise is very important and valuable. Secondly, what's really important is understanding the entire ecosystem and the breadth. Because, say, for example, today, if I take the example of, say, biotech, there are so many biotech companies out there, and there are multiple biotech companies going after the same disease. In some cases, they're going after the same target. So, in that case, it's important to understand the overall ecosystem. It's important to understand where each of these technologies are, what are its differentiating factors from a side effect profile, what is likely going to be more beneficial in the long term, understanding the regulatory aspects, in medical devices and biotech, and because it's a very highly regulated industry. So having the breadth of expertise and understanding all the facets of healthcare in US uh, is the most challenging part, but that's also the most exciting part as well, because once you kind of spend, like, say, for example, myself and my colleague, who have worked side by side for 18 years now at Emerald, we've been doing this for 18 years. And so we've been uh, we have seen hundreds of companies. And I think that experience, that expertise, that learning from the mistakes of some of the companies that we've seen in the past, all kind of collates to being able to identifying that next innovation, and then thinking as a scientist, thinking as a physician, and kind of saying, do these innovations in technology have a place in the real world? What's the size of the market going to be? So, uh, experience, expertise, and being able to think medium and long term perspective are all things that kind of the recipes to kind of making the right soup.
It's really helpful. Now, let's talk more about why active management is important here. You've talked about how active management plays a big role in this space. Can you explain why it's so critical?
Sure. Um, we think active management is important because we live in a very dynamic life sciences industry. We live in a very dynamic world where things can kind of change month to month, week to week, day to day. And it's things like uh, the competitive landscape for, say, a medical device or a biotech company can change because now there's new data or information that makes a competing technology better or worse than the company you're invested in. There are continuous updates that are kind of happening and progress that's kind of happening at these companies. And so being able to be active managers, we can kind of make sure that we are able to invest in the right companies at the right time and focusing on it from multiple different dimensions. For example, macroeconomics and the macro climate can kind of change at times. So being able to respond quickly is important. And so I think with our experience for the past 2 decades doing this, we feel active management is useful, is valuable, uh, allows us to make those critical changes in a more timely fashion, and therefore excited to have Emerald's Life Sciences ETF as an actively managed healthcare ETF.
It sounds like an active management makes a huge difference in this. Let's shift back to technology's role in healthcare. As the populations ages and healthcare demands grow, how do you see innovation in in life sciences addressing these challenges?
So you're very correct. We are going through the aging population, and as we look at uh, and as what we've been seeing, there's been an increase in utilization of healthcare services the past 12 months. And a lot of people have been trying to figure and understand that what we've seen the past 12 months, is it a function of the COVID bounce back? Is it a function because there was a labor shortage issue in 2021, 2022? And so is it now that because we kind of have this skilled resources, is that behind the bounce back? We at Emerald believe that it's more than that. And we think there's two main things that are driving it. One of them is the average baby boomer is today 70. And so as we see the midpoint of the baby boomer generation kind of come into their 70s, they are going to demand more services. And today's senior population wants to live a very active lifestyle after retiring. They want to be out there on the tennis court. That leads to them kind of saying, can I get a knee arthroplasty done? Can I get a hip arthroplasty done? So they kind of, want an active lifestyle. So today, the average age that some of these procedures were being done, say 10 years ago or 20 years ago, has kind of been coming down. The average age of a hip arthroplasty today is 65 years. Um, and so, why are we seeing that? I think we're seeing that because we have got newer technologies that is good. Physicians are seeing now have the 10-year data to kind of see what's the long-term impact of some of these technologies, and they're happy and comfortable and convinced that these newer technologies are going to give a better quality of life to their patients. And seniors also see your friends and neighbors, etc., that have kind of had these new procedures and that have had these procedures done and lead a much more active life, and now coming to the doctor and demanding for some of these procedures. Another thing is I was speaking with a group of cardiologists and saying, what do you think is the reason why you're kind of seeing a more increased uptake in some of these procedures. And one of the doctors kind of made a very interesting observation and said, AI is playing a role there. And he gave an example that because of newer technology today, we are able to screen for diseases at a much earlier stage. Because we're able to screen for things at a much earlier stage, we can intervene at an earlier stage. And that's one of the things that's also bringing more patients through the top of the funnel. So I think this increased volume in uh, surgeries, this increase in the census that we've kind of seen in terms of procedures, etc. I think it's multifactorial. It's a function of the baby boomer generation kind of being starting in their 70s. It's a function of newer innovations and newer technologies are able to screen for diseases and bring more people through the funnel. And it's a function of physicians now have great innovations at their disposal to provide to their patients. So it's a mixture of all of those things.
It's good to hear how technology is stepping up to meet these demands and help others ultimately. Let's talk about the trends and breakthroughs we should watch for. Looking ahead, what trends or breakthroughs in life sciences are you most excited about over the next decade?
Sure. So in terms of trends, breakthroughs, what we think is going to be the exciting part of life sciences, we look at the next 10 years. We think so. To start off with, there still are significant challenges as one thinks about healthcare. As an example, Alzheimer's. There's 6.7 million people living with Alzheimer's in the United States. So, and till about a few years ago, we didn't have too many things in our therapeutic basket for the treatment of these patients. We now have started seeing that trend change. We've now had some approvals and some new medications for patients with Alzheimer's. But we need better medicines. We need medicines that have fewer side effects. And so it's a continuum process. But we have started to see scientists and physicians understand the disease better. That leads to identifying more biomarkers and more targets. And that leads to more therapeutics coming down the pipeline when it comes to Alzheimer's. But at the same time, while that is happening, there's also been significant improvement that's kind of been happening on diagnostic technologies. Because, and this is still not proven, but I kind of think that it kind of makes sense that if you are able to identify a patient who is likely to have Alzheimer's early, and if we can marry those patients with the right therapies earlier on, we're going to be able to slow the progression of the disease, and that's a win-win. So if the symptoms and the more debilitating symptoms, they were going to start, say, at 17, you can push that by 15 years, that's a big win. So if you can kind of slow the progression of the disease, and if you can do that by identifying these patients earlier, that's a great win. We are seeing a lot of innovation in that space. The discovery and identification of new biomarkers that can be tested. But at the same time, in parallel, we're also seeing an improvement in ultra-sensitive detection technologies. What these ultra-sensitive detection technologies are doing is they're allowing the physician to look at these biomarkers in a blood-based test versus in more costly and cumbersome testing, such as, you know, PET-CT scan or CSF testing, etc. So with progress happening on the diagnostic side, I think as we think 3 to 5 years down the road, we're going to see a resurgence in diagnostic tests to detect a lot of the neurological conditions. And that helps to identify these patients earlier whether it's a patient that's going to in the future develop Alzheimer's, whether it's the patients that kind of develop Parkinson's. And even when it comes to Alzheimer's, there are many different types of dementias. So to kind of understand it more in detail, more at a granular level, so that the right therapy is given to those patients. So I feel there are challenges, but at the same time, there's a lot of progress happening in terms of our understanding of the disease is becoming better. There are new therapies that are coming down the pipe, and have some that have kind of been approved recently, which are giving more hope to patients. And then there is an opportunity to develop newer therapeutics, identify patients earlier, and thereby uh, have better outcomes for these conditions. Another area that we think is exciting is oncology. And again, on the oncology front, there's significant innovation happening on the therapeutic side. At the same time, there's significant innovation happening on the diagnostic side with some of the newer technologies, with liquid biopsy technologies, with MRD or minimal residual disease. So even after a patient is treated for cancer and maybe the tumor is surgically removed, we now have tests to be able to monitor for the cancer coming back via a blood based test, which we say about 10 years ago did not have access to. At, so 10 years ago, we would identify the cancer came back because something was picked up in an image, in an X ray, in a CT. But by that time, you kind of have a larger tumor develop. But if we can identify if a cancer is coming back earlier with blood based testing, that's a win win. That's a win win for the patient because the patient kind of knows that uh, I can kind of go for this test and know if and when my cancer comes back and treat it earlier, I'm going to win this battle. So I think it kind of is beneficial in from a long term perspective in terms of healthcare outcomes. It's great for the patient, and it gives the physician more tools in this battle against cancer. So lots of developments happening on the diagnostic side, on the therapeutic side, which uh, is great for science and it's great for the patients.
It's amazing to think about how quickly these things are advancing because it seems like it's just rapidly changing. But it's exciting. It's exciting. So let's wrap up with some advice for people who want to get involved in this space. For people interested in life science and technology, where do you see the biggest opportunities right now for them to get involved?
I think one thing that I kind of feel is like, say, for someone who is trying to understand life sciences, I always tell them that the most useful person is the postdoc in a laboratory. Because the postdoc in a laboratory is someone who has just kind of been trained and has his PhD. And that postdoc has such a wealth of experience in terms of what is really happening at the grassroots levels in academia from a scientific perspective that uh, I think it's really valuable for a lot of us that have kind of graduated and move on into our careers to making sure that we are following the science. So, what at Emerald we do is we make sure we read a lot of those scientific publications. We keep up our knowledge in terms of what is new happening from a scientific perspective on a routine basis. That helps us um, understand what's coming 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. So I feel uh, peer reviewed, peer reviewed scientific publications, um, having a thirst for uh, science. And I think if you have that, you'll definitely make the connections. You'll go to healthcare conferences, you'll go to the right uh, trade shows, etc. And it's about building an ecosystem. It's about understanding from KOLs in terms of where in each specific vertical science is progressing. Um, and I'm sure where there's a will, there's a way. And so a lot of them will find their way.
Absolutely. That's great advice, doctor. Finally, tell everyone where they can find more information about you, your work, and how they can connect with you.
So uh, I am at Emerald Asset Management. And to know more about Emerald Asset Management, we have a website, uh, www.emeraldetfs, that's etfs.com. So emeraldetfs.com, you'll be able to learn more about Emerald. You'll be able to learn more about our team. You'll be able to learn more about our processes and how we do what we do. Uh, and again, this is great as a conversation. And thank you so much, Nicole, for your time.
No, thank you, Dr. Nishit, for this. We really appreciate your insights today. And I know our audience will want to follow your work and find out more. Again, to everyone watching, it was emeraldetfs.com that Dr. Nishit provided to find out more information about all of the research and everything going on at Emerald. Thank you again, Doctor.
Sure. And just one thing I'd say at the end is we live in a world of artificial intelligence, but it's very, very, very important to understand the value and the power of human intelligence. So, my message is make sure you appreciate your power and your human intelligence. And if you keep focused on that, you'll always win the war, win the battle against artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is great. I love to use it. I love to see newer applications, but I never feel threatened about it. And at the same time, I look at it as it can be a great source to add value, to enhance productivity, to learn new things, to do things faster. But at the same time, I have to continuously work on myself so that I'm paying attention to my own human intelligence. And so, all of us who are in this race versus artificial intelligence, trust your human intelligence because that's equally and in some places even more valuable.
That's beautiful. I like that a lot. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I'm sure our viewers are going to love learning about you. Thank you so much, Doctor, and have a great day.
Use Bell. Thanks, Nicole.
SIM swap fraud is sweeping the globe, and your mobile security is at risk. Switch to Efani and lock out SIM swap fraud and get the most elite mobile protection in the world. Efani guarantees 100% protection from SIM swaps backed by a $5 million insurance policy. Stay secure with reliable coverage, free international roaming, and unlimited data. Trust Efani to keep your communications and assets secure. Get military-grade protection, 24/7 concierge service, and a hassle-free upgrade. Click the link below for $150 off. Thanks for watching. Help support this channel and receive exclusive offers from one of our partners located in the description. We'll see you on the next one.